Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. Welcome back to Oak Lodge. I'm out in the woods for some festive material, especially for you, over this midpoint of the winter, just to cheer you up. As you see me sat next to my fire, it's rather chilly today actually, and it's nice to be keeping warm here. Now, I encourage you to send me your questions because I will answer as many as I can in the videos which I've got coming up over the next few weeks. Certainly over the festive period. So, today's question comes from Tam, who asks me, I am looking for shoes or boots that will last me a lifetime. I want to know, why is there such a massive difference in price between shoes made by Clarks, by Dune, by Loke, by Russell and Bromley and by Cheyne? Is it the quality? Will Lokes last a lifetime compared to Cheyne's, even though they're both made in England and both Goodyear welted? Is it the quality of the leather? Are Loke's leather shoes comparable to Cheyne's? I really want advice on a good pair of shoes to our boots to invest in, and I can't find any proper reviews online. So first of all, Tam, yes, all right, there is an enormous amount of difference in the quality of the footwear that you will find out there in the retail world. And it depends on a whole number of things, which we will talk about in a moment. And I will give you my kind of personal assessment on the brands that you have mentioned in your little area there. But before we talk about those brands, and which I think would make the best investment, let's reflect for a moment on what the important features of a quality pair of shoes are. Now, first of all, and you've mentioned it, it's durability. All right, shoes are likely, or they should be, the most expensive item in your wardrobe of clothing. They should be at least the same price, if not more, than the suit that you're wearing, all right, if you're investing appropriately and correctly in your outfit. And durability will be an important part of your decision when you're thinking about buying a pair of shoes. If you're investing a lot of money in shoes, you want something that is going to last as long as possible. Now, Goodyear welted shoes, which you've mentioned, are renowned for their longevity, all right? Primarily, it's because of their construction. Now, if you think of, so we say, a cheap pair of shoes, you will have a sole of some kind, often made of plastic or some composite material, and that will be stuck to the upper, all right, the top part of the shoe where the laces are. Now, that will be stuck normally by way of some form of cement, glue, which is normally the failure point, all right? Glue does not last forever. On a good sort of pair of cheap shoes, you may get 3, maybe 4 years if you're lucky and you don't wear them that often. Now, when it comes to Goodyear welted, that sole, which is most likely going to be much higher quality, is going to be mechanically attached to the upper. And when I say mechanically attached, I mean it is going to be sewn on there. There might be glue involved as well, but it's going to be stitched on. So it's never going to come apart. It's not going to part under stress. I have never had a Goodyear welted pair of shoes shed their sole in all of the years I've been wearing them. And the other important thing about when you have your Goodyear welted in regards to durability is that construction method means they can be resoled. So when the sole, be it leather or rubber, whatever you have, day-night, when it wears through or wears rather thin, you can have that sole replaced, totally taken away and replaced by a new one. That can be done 3-4 times with a good pair of Goodyear welted shoes, which really does mean that your shoes are now going to be lasting decades rather than years, without a doubt. Sorry if the smoke's getting in your eyes. It's not bothering me, but it's blowing in the direction of the camera. Other than Goodyear welting, there's another form of stitching called Blake stitching. It's a slightly simpler method where the shoe is, stitched not to a welt, but directly. The sole is stitched to the upper directly. It's not quite as good. They can be replaced, but personally, if I possibly could, I'd be aiming for Goodyear welted. Now, the other positive of higher quality shoes is always going to be the comfort level. All right, remember, a conservative estimate is that you spend about 1/3 of your life standing up or walking around in your shoes. So you want something which is comfortable. And shoes which are made of a Goodyear welted construction tend to be made of higher quality because, they tend to be made by better manufacturers. So you'll have higher quality leather. The shoe itself will normally have a a cork bedding within the sole, not visible because it's all covered up, but it is the soft bit that you put your foot into in the shoe. It will mould naturally over time to the shape of your foot. You don't tend to see this in cheaper quality shoes, so comfort is important. And again, higher quality shoes, manufacturers, they will have different shaped lasts you can choose from. Now the last is the model or the form which the leather shoe is made around. They have different sizes. You can have a country last, which tends to be a little bit more roomy to allow you to wear an extra pair of socks in the winter. You can have a sort of city last, which is a bit sleeker because, you know, people tend to prefer that with maybe a pure dress shoe. But you don't tend to get that with lower quality footwear. And as I say, better quality materials are generally in evidence with higher quality footwear. So you're going to have full grain leather rather than genuine leather. Now genuine leather, excuse me, genuine leather is normally some sort of corrected grain leather, or it's got a composite of leather and something else. So personally, I would stay away from anything which declares itself to be genuine leather. In my experience, it is anything but. Now, the third thing, which should draw you towards quality footwear, is craftsmanship. What you buy when you buy a good quality pair of shoes is something which is probably made by craftspeople who have generations of family experience in working in shoe factories. Now here in the UK, our epicenter for men's footwear is Northamptonshire. And you know, there are probably 15 factories up there today. There would have been dozens more than that in the past, in the heyday of men's quality footwear. But right now, there's probably 15 factories. You've all heard their names. They're Church, they're, Crockett and Jones, they're Cheyne, they're Sanders, all of those brands. They're all based up there. And the people who work in the factories, they've worked there all their lives. Their fathers and mothers did. Their grandparents did. Their children will probably work there, and their siblings may work there as well. You have sort of generations of skill and knowledge going into those shoes. So you get a really polished, highly finished pair of shoes. Now, I recently read an article about Tricker's shoes. Tricker's shoes take about, I think it's between 8 and 12 weeks to go through the manufacturing process, and each pair of shoes will have around about 260 individual processes applied to that pair of shoes from the beginning of its manufacturing to its end. You get this real established quality product which isn't going to fall apart, which is meticulously well made, which has been, quality assessed before you ever get anywhere near it as a customer. So that's the other thing you're buying, craftsmanship for sure. Now when we look at the cheaper alternatives, as I've said, all of the positives I've just said about quality shoes, you will see the negative aspects. Lower quality materials, lower quality craftsmanship, no longevity or durability. That adhesive construction process, it's prone to failure. I mean, in the early days of my Chap journey, I actually did have to buy some cheap, quality shoes, more or less plastic soles, which were glued to the upper. And sure enough, after 12 months or so, they tend to fall apart. They tend to look shabby, they're of low quality, there's nothing positive to them. And there's no resoling, or there may be some limited resoling options if you can stick them back together, but the reality is they're never going to be the same again. And the thing is, they never look so good either. That material quality of full grain leather is always going to have that beautiful luster. When you apply polish to it, it gets better and better over time. It acquires a magnificent patina. It can be burnished. It can be, made to look like a little shoe work of art. Whereas these plastic, genuine leather products, they never really take a polish very well. It never looks as anywhere near in the same stratosphere as a high quality pair of shoes. And again, practicality. They are less comfortable. They just don't protect your foot. They don't make your foot feel so cosseted within that cork bed that you will find in a quality pair of shoes. And they won't protect you from the elements in the same way that a quality shoe will. They simply don't have that ability. And as I say, their appearance never looks so good. they're not going to last so long. I mean, King Charles III, as you can imagine, right, he's a man with unlimited funds at his disposal. He has pairs of shoes, I think, made by John Lobb in London, and he has shoes in his collection which observers of the royal wardrobe are able to date now to something like 50 years of age. He's had them repaired, he's had them patched, they always, go with him on his journeys. He's probably walked thousands of miles in those shoes over decades. That is why you're buying quality footwear over inferior, cheaper graded shoes. Now, you asked me some specific questions about a few brands of shoes and what I think of them in comparison to others. So, you talked about Dune and Russell and Bromley. Now, these are shops in the UK. I don't know if they're so broadly represented, but they will be the similar versions of these shoe retailers everywhere around the world. And that's the key word. They are retailers, all right? They do not manufacture shoes themselves. What they may do is they may commission shoe manufacturers to make shoes either in the UK or abroad, and they will brand them or label them with their own brand identity. So you'll see shoes which are marked as Russell and Bromley, all right? That doesn't mean Russell and Bromley have a factory where they're making those shoes. They are probably placing an order with another big company in Northamptonshire, or most likely elsewhere in the world. Portugal, Spain, Vietnam, India, these are the countries which make mass-produced shoes. They'll place an order, but in that order they will be badged up with Russell and Bromley's identity. They are not in the same league as the other brands we're about to talk about. Now, Clark's shoes, they are an old heritage manufacturer here in the UK. The most famous shoe which they make is the original Clark's Desert Boot, which is still made by them, and it is still a high quality product, but it's not made here in the UK anymore. I've got a pair made in Vietnam. I believe they make them in India and other parts of the world too. However, Clark's, I recently read they were on the brink of bankruptcy. They actually no longer manufacture shoes in the UK. Their shoes are made abroad, India, other places like that, and then they import them to the UK and other European countries and sell them off. I would not recommend buying shoes from Clark's in this day and age because the product manufacturing processes are not there. Their price points are not competitive for what they actually are. I would steer clear of Clark's other than their original Clark's Desert Boot, and to be perfectly honest with you, I have now transferred my Desert Boot patronage to Veldskone of South Africa, who I think actually make a better product at a cheaper price. So there we go. Now, getting on to the shoe brands you did mention, which I would go along with, you talked about Loake. Now, Loake, again, heritage British shoe manufacturer, been around since 1880, up there in Northamptonshire. There's a bit of a minefield there as well, all right? Because Loake make many different tiers of shoe. They make their 1880 models. They also make lifestyle, and they give them all different names, and the names change every so often. The important thing is, only the Loake 1880 range are manufactured here in the UK. And even then, part of the components are made overseas and shipped in to be put together here. You have to be very careful. Their lower tier products are made overseas. Now, whilst I don't dispute that other countries can make excellent footwear, when you buy a product which is like made by Loake, which has a high reputation, royal warrant, all that sort of thing, you think to yourself, it's the British identification which kind of makes them valuable to customers. And for me, I would only buy Loake products from the 1880 range, and that's a number of different products. They've got their export range, their legacy range, and so on within 1880. They're the higher price models. They're pretty good. The other brand you mentioned was Cheyne. Cheyne is the top of the shop of the ones that you've mentioned. They're a Northamptonshire brand. I've been to the factory. I have seen the people working within the factory. It is a proper British heritage shoemaker. The products are all made here in the UK of the highest level of quality, best components. They are superb, and I think they're a very approachable price point. And if you are thinking about buying a pair of shoes of the brands which you have mentioned, I wouldn't hesitate. With Cheyne, they've been around since 1886. they are a good quality brand. No doubt at all. Excellent shoes in every regard. Wouldn't have a hesitation about buying those. So there we go. That's the price differences. Some of the brands you mentioned, you know, you can understand. They are lower, not necessarily lower quality, but their origins, their ethics, we can't control that. For me, I tend to buy products these days whose origin I can be sure of. Ethics are solid because they're made here in the UK, in a country where human rights are of enormous importance. And, you know, the products are consequently of the very highest grade. So that is where I would be. And think about those shoes. You know, if you're buying a high quality product, 260 individual manufacturing processes are, applied to that shoe before you get to buy it. That is why you're paying higher quality. But in so doing, you're buying something which could be on your feet for 20, 30 years if you look after them. But that's another story. So there we go, Tam. That's my answer. I hope that has brought some light to the darkness of the shoe world for you. I wish you luck in your purchasing journey. Pick well. Invest as much as you reasonably can in a pair of shoes, because it typically will pay you back in the long run. So until the next time, take care. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, you could buy me a coffee, leave me a comment, you can drop me an email, or you can even become a patron. And if you join my group of patrons, you get additional video content from me every week. So until the next time, take care, wear your shoes with pride and passion and with polish, and I'll see you again very soon.